evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, everyone.
Good evening.
um,
Good evening.
yeah, so you're all welcome to today's final episode of season one of the Green Talk Show, brought to you by my Tree Initiative, with partners and other stakeholders that they work with. Our dear viewers, those ones who have been following us, thank you for following, thank you for working with us. And now we finally reached the last episode of this year, and I hope it's going to be very interesting. And of course, as usual, filled with fun, filled with like learning, and amazing. Should I say amazing host? No, I'll say amazing guests. So yeah, once again, you're very welcome. And today, I'm just going to start by telling you that you won't believe what is coming today. We have super amazing hosts. For those, I mean, guests and hosts, of course. For those ones who have seen the flyer, today. I'm just going to ask, can someone type in the comment section on our Facebook and tell us which guest is coming on our show today? I'll give 1 second. 1 second is gone. Okay, so we have a guest from the International Monetary Fund, and today we're going to be talking about money. As you can hear, we're talking about funds, right? So we're going to be talking about money, but mostly money related to climate change, what we call climate finance. So as we all know, once again, I'm going to refer to COP26. We finished COP26 in November. And if you remember what Africa's and Uganda in particular, what the priorities for COP26 were, one of the key ones was on climate finance. And we had parties or countries and states commit to delivering the previous commitment on 100 billion US dollars. And I think you, like me, and others that are viewing, how do we benefit from that? Especially looking at a country like Uganda that has contributed the least to the greenhouse gas emissions at the global level, but facing the brutal impacts of climate change, facing the harsh impacts on our lives and the livelihoods, on our education and health systems, on our food security and agriculture, which is like the most predominant sector in our country and that contributes the highest on our GDP, on our jobs. Most of us have at least been educated through agriculture from our parents, but climate change is affecting all those sectors. And we need finance to adapt to climate change, but at the same time, to mitigate climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But then, as a country or as African countries, we don't have the resources, sometimes even the capacities to adapt to climate change, right? And we need the culprits, who are the rich countries that continue emitting greenhouse gases, first of all, to stop doing that, but at the same time to pay for what they have done. And one way in which they have to pay is support the developing countries, the least developed countries like Uganda, to adapt and mitigate climate change. So that is why, this is the final episode of this year. How can we end this year without talking about finance? We kept the best for the last, right? So, and as I already said, today we have His Excellency Izabela, who is the resident representative of International Monetary Fund. If you're there, I want you to tell me what is International Monetary Fund in short? What is the abbreviation? Put it in the chat box. So Izabela, who is the resident representative of I was going to make it cheat, of International Monetary Fund in Uganda. She's a top diplomat with over 20 years of experience working with least developed countries, of course, like Uganda and where she is right now. She's a public policy analyst and a senior economist, which makes it even more interesting because we're talking about finance, we're talking about economies, we're talking about young people. And not to forget, she's very passionate about supporting and engaging young people and women. And that is why we have her here today. Izabela, please, you're very welcome on today's show. Everyone, all our viewers are looking forward to hearing from you. Please say hi and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me in the show. I wish you had told me before about it. I would have watched all the 21 episodes. I'm sorry to be coming only in the end, but I'm honored at the same time to be closing the season. So thank you very much to everybody who's listening. Please be patient. My connection is really, really bad. Ask your questions very slowly. Type them in the chat, and I'll be able. We hopefully able to answer that.
Think, well, as our viewers can see today, I have a very different special background. So you can tell that I'm back home. So in case the internet goes wrong, please bear with us. And but I'm sure we're going to make this great. So
Thank
and yeah, and then as you also know, I'd already mentioned we have our lovely and brilliant host who has been hosting many of the episodes that we had for My Tree Initiative. And Haula, thank you so much for joining us today. Please wave and say hi to our viewers, and I'm sure they're looking forward to hearing from you about today's topic and AOB.
Thank you so much, Rose. It is an honor to be here on tonight's show. To everyone who's watching, my name is Haula Safina. I've been a host and still a host because I believe we have more seasons that will be coming in for the Green Talk Show. But it has been an honor. I'm very happy for tonight, though a little sad because I mean, this should continue. But again, we shall have to wait for a few Fridays for us to begin the next season. But it is an honor. I'm very happy that we are having our last episode for tonight. Thank you so much, Rose. Over
thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you, Haula, and thank you for always hosting us and being an amazing host. So, Isabella, I'm going to go in and I'll start by asking, first of all, a very kind of personal question before we go into finance and stuff. I just wanted to ask for you to share your experience on what inspired you to be a policy analyst, an economist, and most importantly, to join the International Monetary Fund?
Okay. Well, I'm sorry I cannot tell you that it was something that I was born to do. I think my profession came by elimination in what I was not supposed to do and what I shouldn't be doing, with a lot of pushing also from the side of my parents. So I went into economics because we thought as a family that this is a job that one can do anywhere in the world. You know how you study law and then you have to practice law in a certain environment. Well, economics is a little bit the same everywhere. So, and I like the idea of being able to travel, to see other countries, to learn other cultures. That's my passion. I like to learn other languages, and so somehow that background in the end up matching my interests altogether. But then, over the time, I became really passionate about it, and I think one becomes passionate about its own work just in virtue of the fact that you drill deeper and deeper into what you're doing, and over the years you become even more curious about it. And I think that whatever you end up doing in your life, as you do it longer, you become more passionate, regardless of whether you are studying chemistry or economics or law. And I think it's with the age, and I can tell you now that I'm aging. I like my work more, certainly more than in the beginning. And I think so that there is a perspective for everybody. There is hope that this can happen, whatever you're
Wow.
doing in your life.
Wow, that's super amazing. I think the reason why I asked you this question was mostly because when I look at, we're going to talk about climate finance, and that is, and economics and everything. That is a gap that we currently have in the country. I've been seeing our organizations or stakeholders like GIZ that has been advertising for a climate finance specialist, carbon market specialist, and like all these almost every month they're advertising, and I don't. It looks like we have a gun staff, so that is why I wanted you to share your experience, and it's very amazing to. And I'm sure someone is being motivated to take up, these can I call them interesting stuff. Okay, Izabela, and thank you for
Yes.
sharing your experience and inspiring us. And I think I would like now to ask you about your work with the International Monetary Fund, and especially like what is IMF first of all? What is this National Monetary Fund? It's just like some of us see it as,
Sorry,
that
what is the
big.
international one?
What is International
So the
Monetary Fund
international
and
money.
what does it do?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, so I interrupted you. You were asking me about what is the IMF doing, right? What is the work about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
What do you do? And then if you can connect it in terms of climate change, what are you doing in that field? I think that would be very amazing.
Okay, so the International Monetary Fund is the name says it's an international organization. So it's an organization that employs people from everywhere in the world and takes care, like is influences and works on all the countries in the world. I say all the countries. It's really, we typically say all the member countries, but almost all the countries in the world are member countries. So it's a lot. So what do we do? We do several things. So first of all, we do something that we call surveillance, or you also often hear the word Article 4 consultations. That is the work that we do at the country level, at the regional level, and at the global level. So we typically go to the country, to each country every year. We talk to the authorities, we do research, we analyze the economic situation, we make policy recommendations. That policy recommendations then are discussed in our executive board, and they become public after that. So this is our engagement in countries where we are not lending. And that brings me to our second job, and this is lending. We provide financial help in countries that face balance of payment crisis, but not only. For instance, we have provided assistance to countries during COVID as well, when they did not have external imbalances. We also do a lot of capacity building, in particular in low-income countries. So we give technical assistance and training in some countries. We help the governments, improve their public financial management, central bank management also and activity, and we do that both in person and virtually now in the COVID world. We also collect and publish data. We do a lot of regional work, and we call it multilateral surveillance as well. So there are several spheres in which we are active. For instance, in Uganda, we're recently have a program. The authorities have a program that we are supporting through a loan as well. So this surveillance and lending are now happening together. So there is program implementation, and we are doing surveillance and verification in the course. So yeah, how does that? So, and probably I can talk a little bit about what does this mean for our work on climate change. So we have, as you have said in the beginning, and probably you have talked. Hello? You hearing me?
Yes, we can hear Izabela. We can hear you.
Okay, I thought there was a question. So we have come to realize, as you have said in the beginning, that Africa is the most vulnerable region to climate shocks, despite being the world's smallest greenhouse contributor. We have also acknowledged that climate change can act as multiplier of conflict, for fragility, for food security, population displacement, water scarcity. And And this has underscored the importance of policies to bolster climate adaptation, but also the importance of tackling fiscal vulnerabilities. And when I talk about fiscal vulnerabilities, it's what we usually talk about: high indebtedness, low revenue mobilization. Sometimes also expenditure composition is inadequate, improvement in governance. And the reason for this is because we think that a larger cushion of financing will be needed to support long-term efforts to achieve development and sustainable development goals, while at the same time tackling the financing needs from climate change effects. So, for instance, in the IMF, we have estimated that adaptation costs are in the order of $30 to $50 billion per year for the entire continent, and they add to the already sizable development needs. So therefore, so what can we do? Through our surveillance work, we have the capacity to inform the investors, the climate funds, the development partners on progress in key reform areas. And this is our vehicle for signaling policies. And through that vehicle, we can do our communication and advocacy work to attract more financing from developing partners, climate change. Second, through our, as I said, through the capacity development, we can enhance management of public investment, management of debt, but we can also integrate climate financing and climate risks into the work of the central bank, who is involved in stress testing, supervision, and regulation. We also started publishing climate change diagnostics, and we are, doing some research. One such research is underway on Uganda as well, where we're modeling the impact of climate change and basically estimating the gains from mitigation policies. So I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that work sometimes next year when it becomes finalized in public. Also, lastly, but importantly, we have allocated in August 650 billion of special drawing rights, and that this is financing that can be used for climate mitigation by governments. And in addition to that, the IMF is setting up a new resilience and sustainability trust, which should help the low and middle income countries make important structural reforms and including in investments in climate responsiveness. So this is a little bit, the role of the IMF.
That's amazing to hear, Izabela. Sorry if I'm breaking you, because I was so interested in hearing, especially the way how you engage the young people in Uganda, especially, or how you're planning to engage young people within your work in addressing climate change and in supporting climate change awareness and climate change adaptation.
Well, it's good that you are pushing me to do that because I haven't been doing that yet sufficiently. Well, I did arrive not long ago to Uganda and have.
You're welcome. Welcome to Uganda.
I'm set up, and I have, had a period of adaptation, moving into the country and meeting the government, the authorities, the development partners, and I met also some youth influencers in the process. But I'd like to meet the youth as well, not just the youth influencers. So I actually, would be very happy to engage with you. And I think we could, sometimes in January, hopefully the economy is fully reopening, and we can hold maybe sessions where we can meet in person and have this kind of discussion.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And I think one way is that it's a tape you've started with us. This is the first tape. And I think young people, Mitro Initiative, other young people watching out there I think it's now high time to add more pressure on Izabela because she's now willing to, to take the second step. So Isabella, I'll be coming back to you, and I'll just like to welcome Daniel, who has also been a very brilliant host of the previous shows. Daniel, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making it against all odds. And please say hi to the viewers, and I'll be
Yeah.
coming to you probably with a question or one or two. And yeah, Daniel, you're welcome on today's show. Daniel, are you there? Okay, Daniel will be joining us, and
Raz, are you still out there? She probably is having some bit of network disruptions, but she was welcoming Daniel to the show. Rose, are you back?
yeah, I
Okay,
think I'm
fine.
back. It looks like Isabella, I've been away. I came back yesterday to Uganda, and the internet just seems to be like, welcoming me back. Welcome back home, and
Yes.
yes, sorry for the poor connection. I was just welcoming
It's okay.
Daniel, but it looks like it's not actually on. Probably could be an internet issue. So I guess we'll
Yeah.
try to move on as he also joins us on the way. So I was just thinking of crossing over Towler and, just asking a question. As you can hear, Isabella is willing to support young people. But what do you
Yes.
think are the ways in international agencies like IMF could support young people, and how can young people support those organizations to advance their climate change agenda?
Thank you so much. I've been listening very well to what Izabela was telling us, and it being that the biggest number of people that usually come in to watch this show are youth, I believe they really like it so much. If this aspect of them being involved with different organization comes in, and they feel very happy whenever these people that come up are ready to work with them. So I believe the different ways that these international organizations would engage the youth, I would start with having to train them. Because you find that some young people are not well versed with the system and how it operates. So I believe it would be best if trainings are done in the beginning to educate them, to show them how are things supposed to be done. How is the system running? How do you get into the system? And if you get into the system, how are you supposed to go about everything that happens throughout the whole system? So I believe with the trainings and the young people understanding how the whole thing is supposed to run, how they're supposed to act, I believe that would be a good start for them all. And the other thing would be is supporting of initiatives, just like we have My Tree initiative. It is really an honor that we have Izabela with us tonight. We are talking about finances, so I believe the people out there, the My Tree team, are at peace, happy that we have someone that is here to talk about finances. So the other way I believe would be supporting these initiatives, because you might find that yes, the young people have the ideas, they have the ideas that they want to put out there, but there are times hindered by it being that they cannot finance these ideas that they have. They do not have the resources that would take. It does not necessarily have to be in terms of money, but it could be in terms of resources. I would give an example of my tree initiative when we were starting up our tree nursery in Kawempe. All we needed was soil. We needed polythene bags where we would put the seedlings that we are going to plant. We needed logs that we would use in the construction of the tree nursery beds. So at times it doesn't have to be monetary. It could be in terms of, it could be something tangible. So we had different organizations that came up by then. We had FAO coming up, providing us with tanks where we could store the water we could use to water these seedlings. They provided us with soil the best soil that we could use for the seedlings. So I believe it does not have to necessarily be in terms of money, but it could be something tangible. Because usually you find that if it is money, then some people might be tempted to use this money for something else other than what they requested the money for. So I'll say that the other way of helping the young people out would be providing them with resources. They could be tangible or anything that can help them out. I think those are some of the ways that we could help the young people. And the other way is, and the most important way, is coming up. These organizations should come up whenever they are called upon by the young people. I believe at My Tree Initiative, we can witness that, yes, these people are out there and they're ready to help the young people. We've had so many amazing guests that someone out there would think and say to themselves, how did these young people bring this person to this show? How did they do this? And it is, just a matter of approaching these people, talk to them, sell your idea to them, and they are going to show up. We have Izabela with us tonight. We've had so many amazing people on the show. So the other way is showing up when these people, the young people need these people. It could be in terms of advice. It could be in terms of encouragement. And I believe at My Tree Initiative, we are very appreciative of the different organizations. We have IMF now, we've had UNDP, we've had FAO, we've had a lot of them coming up for us. So let me also take the opportunity. Yes, thank you so much, Rose.
Back I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Haula.
Yes.
You're saying a lot of amazing things. And
Yes.
and I think you've, first of all, welcome Daniel. Thanks for joining us. And I know you had trouble a little bit joining us, but we appreciate for joining us. All of you, welcome Daniel. Daniel has been one of the brilliant hosts of our season 1. And thank you for the contribution. Daniel, say hi before I go back to Izabela.
Hello, my name is Chimera Daniel. I have been one of the hosts. Actually, between us three, I am the one male, and I am also the youngest member, not only this host, but also of My Tree. So yes, it does show that we have reached out to younger people because I am in Form 5. So I believe that the youth are the future, and teaching them the right things as soon as possible is the best way to save the planet. Says, thank you.
Daniel and Rose, are you guys still out there?
What a journey today. Yeah, thanks Daniel for joining us. We had a little bit of internet glitch around there, and yeah, it's great to have you. And justice for the boy child. He's the only boy. Anyway, that was a joke. Thanks Daniel for joining us. And okay, I'll just go back to Izabela. Izabela, you've heard what Haula was saying. There are different needs that young people, women groups out there, farmer groups that need the support, your support, and the support of the people you work with, your networks, national and international, private sector organizations, and everyone, especially with fighting the climate change impacts that continue to push the poor, continue to push the most vulnerable to the extreme. And as we can see, is that the extreme events in our country, Uganda, they have increased rapidly, from the floods, from the droughts, from the landslides, and then we also have the pests like locusts, the malaria, the mosquitoes, the parasites, and everything that have increased. And that is where people like Izabela comes in as an advocate, as a strong advocate, putting the people at the center of IMF. And you've heard from Haula, there are different number of ways you can engage young people from the first one is, even just speaking about climate change and finance, because actually when you look at our population, many young people don't even know about climate change. Those ones who have an idea also don't understand why climate change is, and then the interconnectedness with finance and other sectors. So there's capacity building that is needed, as Hala was saying. There's finance that can be needed. There's also like support in kind in terms of like use resources to use. There are trainings that are needed, but also just mentorship programs, hackathons. You could like run kind of like, it can be an essay writing competition. It can be an innovative way for climate adaptation or mitigation, and then the young people contribute. Participates and things like that. So, okay, Izabela, I'm going to come to you with my other question. You've been talking about one of your responsibilities is providing a lending hand. As we can see in our country, Uganda, when we talk about lending, we just get a little bit scared sometimes as the young people because of the debt burden. And we're just wondering, with lending because of adapting to climate change, something that Ugandans didn't contribute a lot to. How is IMF trying to balance and be fair in terms of like the rates they charge or the processes they use to lend a country like Uganda in addressing these climate-related catastrophes and, maybe adaptation and mitigation?
So let me try to answer also based on discussion earlier, but I have a serious connection problem. So forgive me if your question is not fully answered. I'm going to disappoint you momentarily, but I need to clarify just that the IMF gets very often confused with the World Bank. We are both, involved in development, but the nature of our work is a little bit different. So the IMF does not provide financial support to entities, to companies, to projects, to segments of the population. The IMF provides financial support only to governance. But that doesn't mean that is not relevant, that is not relevant for the youth and for the climate change. What we are trying to